If you won millions in the lotto, what would you buy first? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1. All of my time for the rest of my life, by which I mean I would retire. There isn't a single item I can think of that I want. I have a sufficient house and a good enough car. I have too many clothes and too much crap already in my house. I don't want jewelry or collectibles. But I do sell my time to my employer in exchange for the money that let me get those things. While it was a good and necessary trade, that is the biggest drag on my quality of life right now. So with a multi-million-dollar lottery win, I would purchase all of my remaining time for myself to do with as I please for as long as I live. Story 2. I promised my friends back in high school that I would buy a pirate ship. We would sail around the Caribbean and make my one friend Brandon walk the plank multiple times per day. Now at 40, I think I would still choose this as my first buy. Story 3. A bigger house with a nice big yard and go adopt a couple dogs from the shelter. The only reason I don't have dogs right now is lack of a yard and time to properly take care of them. The lottery could fix both issues. Story 4. Buy land and make preparations for a family compound with home/farm/water source security that will sustain me and my extended family when climate change, societal collapse starts to everything up. Story 5. A house. I think I'd start doing passion flip projects. Profit wouldn't matter much, so I could aim to break even as a hobby. So many beautiful homes here that have fallen into disrepair, but have 100% unique floor plans and so much charm. Then just put them on market for the average cost per square foot in the neighborhood. Be selective, no investors, with who I sell to, and don't destroy the prop values of the neighborhood by selling well outside the mean price. I've obviously thought about this, but it feels like a great way to keep yourself busy, learn profitable life skills if you lose it all, give back, and remain financially healthy as long as you break even. Story 6. I would buy as many golf courses I could afford around here in Seattle, close them, then donate all of them to the Washington Wildlife Federation so they can be repurposed as wildlife conservations for rehabilitation and outdoor education. Story 7. Nothing. Literally nothing. I just live like I do now but would quit the work. I just spend time with my dogs, play games, watch movies, eat out once a week, and probably get involved in some animal help stuff as a volunteer. Necessity of work is the worst part of life. Story 8. Very first thing would be all the different kind of cheese that I can find. Some sourdough baguette and different meat cuts. Maybe some grapes, olives, and such. Then call my friend and share all of that while discussing about where we should go take a vacation. After that, pay off debts, move somewhere warm, and live off from stock indexes. Story 9. I go have my last poverty meal, take a shower and rinse the poverty off me. Then I quit my job, get me a personal trainer and take a ton of cooking classes. Then just ride the vibe off into the sunset. Story 10. The first thing may not be the most expensive, but an all-expenses-paid trip for my mom to the Grand Canyon. I'll hopefully look to finally be able to purchase a home for myself. And I'll no longer have to feel I need to hold on to this job. I could find a less stressful job with more pleasant people around, even if it means I have to move to another state. Story 11. My house, maybe? I'm not sure what would make sense. If it was only $1 million, I wouldn't be in a rush to spend it. I've always heard lotto winners mostly blow their winnings pretty quickly, even much larger sums. But that kind of money could legit improve your life if you're smart with it. But I'm not smart, so I'd have to go slow. But I have had my eye on this $300 plus Lego Dungeons and Dragons set. Story 12. If you win the lottery, you will be supported by private bank advisors to invest your assets and obtain a satisfactory income. In my case, I think I would travel to nice regions in Europe to find a nice villa, and I would help the people around me in my small way. Story 13. I would move my mother wherever she would like to live and pay for her to live out the remainder of her days in pure bliss. I would buy my wife and I a new house with some land and just do fun all day. Story 14. My husband and I have discussed this at length. Pay off all debt, including our home. We will eventually move, but first things first. Eliminate the mortgage payment, interest, etc. Hire a financial planner, wealth management firm, or whatever it's called. Clearly, I have no idea because we don't have wealth to manage currently. Make sure we're investing properly for growth, etc. Hire a trust estate planning attorney and a tax attorney. Set up trust funds or whatever the appropriate accounts are for our children, nieces, nephews, and our niece-few. Don't come for me. Yes, they are trans, and they chose that designation when I asked them for their input on how to best describe our relation. The original one wasn't accurate, but my sister's child felt kind of cold and may, I love it personally. to cover higher education expenses and the whole generational wealth thing. Again, IDK exactly what happens here, BC. It's not our reality currently. I don't want trust fund kids who don't know the value of money or hard work, but I also don't want them to struggle or worry about how they're going to eat when they should be focusing on enriching themselves and learning to best facilitate their futures, whatever that looks like, as long as they're not hurting themselves, others, and all that, of course. Share with our families, parents, brothers, sisters, etc. We would continue to work for the time being, but plan an exit from our employers ASAP. Take a 2-week vacation somewhere, anywhere to rest and really let what's happened set in. Purchase a forever home with acreage. We want a homestead. Purchase a facility for my animal rescue and allocate funds for continuing operations. I currently run a 100% foster-based nonprofit animal rescue. The goal is to have a facility to be able to help house more animals and also serve as a sanctuary for keeping animals we can't, shouldn't, rehome, rehabilitation, animal hospice, etc. Be charitable anonymously. Fund causes close to our hearts. Use this freedom and opportunity to help others. Be the good in the world. Maybe stage a coup? I live in America, so not sure what that looks like, but I know I will need a noble steed, a sword, and a fancy hat. Edited to add my husband's favorite priority. 12. Hire a good criminal defense attorney because he is planning on punching assholes right in their crap-lousy faces at any all opportunities that present themselves. And we're talking child predator-type assholes, not bad driver-type assholes. He's a good man, not just looking to be a bully. Story 15. I would get a lawyer to open a trust and name myself as the executor. I would then open an investment account in the trust's name and invest 75 to 90% of winnings depending on the size. Probably make a decent-sized dividend portfolio. I would probably hire an accountant for much of this. I would never sell. I would just get low-interest loans using the stock I own as collateral so that I wouldn't have a taxable event. With what I had left, I would purchase a chunk of land about 20 acres outside a decent-sized metro, build a nice house that isn't absurd. I would put up a nice pole barn as well with heated floors, all owned by the trust. I would then portion off chunks of the lot. An apartment complex, ideally 12. 20 units probably finance this. I would put up a couple warehouses and rent them to companies I'd create under the trust. Adult beverage brewing, doggy daycare, child daycare, bar and grill depending on location, a butcher shop, wedding venue, hotel, etc. I would plan out the lot and slowly add businesses so that I could grow the trust without spending the money to take low-interest loans from. Slow and steady and absolutely no outside equity. By the end, there should be a developed trust that will support my family for generations, that is safe from private equity and the government. Story 16. After all the boring back-end stuff is done or planned for to make sure this will go smoothly, I would have a nice relaxing dinner, followed by a few weeks of getting used to being able to sleep in every day until I die, or just have something planned early, and if I can help it, that won't be happening very much. Story 17. Well, first things first. I'm not going to buy 20 cars and 10 different mansions because what would I need that for? Second, I'm going to mostly live my life as normal. However, I am still going to get a better house so that I no longer live in a mid, at best, apartment. Third, I'm going to do college from the start and then spend about $500,000 on video games, assuming millions is about 5 million plus. I should still have spent around 2 million at most. After that, I'm just going to live my life normally. The only real sign of my wealth being me going on the best vacations ever, while sometimes giving maybe 1,000 to homeless people. Hopefully there isn't any that spend it to get their next fix. Story 18. Nothing. I'd just pay off my house and set up a trust fund for my kids. The first thing I'd probably end up buying would be a new car in a few years. I would probably invest the money in my own business and just keep working on projects I love. Story 19. I'd make my fun purchase a weekend getaway with my partner. Then do the boring stuff. Pay off bills / invest / save, because $1 million won't last forever. I'd probably give myself like 5,000 to splurge on little treats. The idea being that the $1 million would eventually grow to the point that I can retire early if I keep working for a few more years. Story 20. Pay off debts. New cars for me and my partner. Not supercars, but new nice cars. Give our parents enough to live comfortably without working, and put a good chunk in our kids' accounts so they won't have to go into debt for uni and can buy a car and have a deposit for a house when they're old enough. Story 21. Probably pay off my mortgage, then renovate the house. What's left, I would probably pay off my brother's mortgage. My mother would murder me if I didn't. Then see about buying some woodland so I've got a wild camping area away from everyone. Story 22. I'd handle my debts, get my dream house, a condo in Washington, preferably Bellevue, and really it could just be another house, a car, do for my siblings and lifelong friends. I spend way too long thinking about this. One day, man, one day. Realistically, I'm sure much more would happen ahead of these things, like all the check engine lights that are my health concerns that I could then afford. Maybe I wouldn't even buy anything outright, but try and remain modest and just enjoying a higher standard of living the way I currently do with money being no object LOL. Now I'm gonna go look on Zillow at the houses I can't afford. Story 23. If it was just a couple million, you'd probably only end up with like 1.2 mil after Fed and state taxes. For me, it would be getting multiple LLCs and investing in some property, gold, and stock keeping like a 200K for safekeeping. I wouldn't quit my day job. As to retire comfortably by the time my generation hits 60, you will probably need 3 million in net worth, which very few millennials will ever reach without a Lotto win. Story 24 depends on how many millions. A couple million, I don't change my lifestyle and invest it to retire a little earlier. Over 10 million, I upgrade my lifestyle, bigger house, nicer location, invest the rest, retire early. Over 100 million, I quit my job and upgrade my lifestyle. Story 25. A lawyer, not just to set up the anonymous claiming part, allowed in my state, but to set up appropriate ways to be able to gift some to family/friends. It's been a running joke with a friend of mine that if I ever tell her that she and I have an appointment with a lawyer, but won't tell her why, it's because there's an NDA and a lot of money on the other side of that NDA. Because I don't need anyone else knowing I have money. Story 26. I would buy a townhouse in Kensington for about 20 million or so and rent it to an Irish traveler family. When the neighbors get fed up with the 4x4S parking all around the Crescent and move out, I'll buy their house at a knockdown price, then pay the travelers to move out and make a profit. Story 27. Saying that it's Powerball levels of millions. I get a good-sized house, not anywhere near mansion-sized, but big enough for a few guest rooms. After that's done and filled with furniture, I'd give enough money to my brother to ensure he can do the same. I'll kick some help to my immediate family for good measure. Then I'd put the rest in as many accounts as needed to ensure I won't have to work again. Story 28. Likely a house right away and furnish it since I have a baby coming. A car for my wife. Keep enough so that she wouldn't have to work for a year. Invest quite a bit of it. Donate a good amount to different causes, as well as some for the 2028, hopefully, U.S. presidential election. Story 29. Toilet paper. I'd buy all the toilet paper. I'd take over the entire industry in the U.S. I'd get my new buddy Trump in on the deal. 1,000% tariffs on imported TP. Then I'd stop making single ply and take the width of the rolls back to where they were 30 years ago. I'm talking end to end of the roll hanger. Wider than the palm of your hand. No longer need to wrap your hand up like a mummy. All this sound good? Are you with me? I'm sure you are. Half of you are sitting on the shitter reading this right now. This is where my plan turns to gold. I jacked the price of TP up 500% like it was a life-saving drug. That $11.88 18-pack, now $59.40. What are you going to do, not wipe? Don't think so. Buy that cheap Mexican one-ply? It's the same price. Thanks, tariffs. Once you're used to $60 toilet paper, it's going up to $80. I'll keep raising the price. You'll keep buying it. Because that's why. Story 30. Pay off debt, buy a new house, remodel, renovate my current house, rent it out to parents fresh out of crisis centers or refugees, save some money for kids. Big win. Buy bigger land property in different safe countries and gift it to a nonprofit that runs it as places for LGBTQIA community to live and be open for classes and parties. Save money for kids. Story 31. Autosufficient house. Solar panels, water treatment plant, auto trash disposal, fastest lifetime satellite internet, lifetime food supply with lifetime delivery, build a wall around the house, impassable full cameras and alarms, a delivery facility for ease delivery of anything and anything without my intervention, lifetime underwear supply, lifetime computer part supply for every 2 years, delivered automatically, and so I have to never in what is left of my life until the day I die have to leave my house or interact with anyone ever again. Story 32. I have an in-law that manages finance for some extremely wealthy clients. First thing you buy? A bloody good lawyer. Once people find out, people will literally crawl out of the woodwork from years past to get a piece. Story 33. I'm sure I'd buy gas or something first. But in the spirit of the post, my first real thing I would buy is a boat. Nothing crazy, just something we've always wanted. My dad had one when I was a kid, and they ended up selling it. I think he still regrets it 25 years later. Story 34. I'd immediately consult a financial advisor to invest it in the best way possible. Getting property to rent out would be one of them. Managed well, such a thing would be a money generator for life. I would also help a close friend and wipe out her debt. Story 35. Are we talking plural millions like 2 million or 999 million? If it's 2 mil, I'm paying off my wife and I's debt, then changing nothing about our life. 999 mil and 3 of my kids' college is paid for. Both my parents and sisters' houses are paid off. Donate a ton to various causes and support. Move somewhere I actually want to live and invest a large chunk. Or, just party like Motley Crue in the mid-80s. Story 36. Pay the balance of my child's education. Invest. Go on a trip back to the Bahamas. Build on my land in the mountains and invite all my distant cousins out for a family BBQ. Then sock the rest away in a nice Y savings account. Story 37. Ooh, I actually have a full multi-step plan laid out for this. Step 1. Take partners and closest friends out for a nice but not extravagant celebratory meal. Step 2. Pay off debts, because paying off debt is always going to be the best investment you could make. Step 3. Set aside a small amount to cover my tuition and other school expenses for the next year, plus a small emergency slush fund. I'm in college right now and fully intend to finish the program. But suddenly, coming into that much money would make me ineligible for like 99% of student funding programs. Step 4. Lock away the rest of the money into a 1-year GIC. Might not be the best interest-earning investment, but I know that I am not responsible enough to handle a sudden windfall like that, especially after living in poverty for my entire adult life. This way, I'm guaranteed some return, but more importantly, I can't access it. Step 5. Find and consult with a financial manager to come up with a game plan of how to best invest that money once the GIC matures, to both expand my small business and generate passive income. Story 38. First of all, a lawyer. Second, gotta go nut. Post-nut clarity is going to be needed for sure. Third, put most in savings, pay taxes, buy a house and some land, modest in a nice semi-rural area. Avoid California, casinos, and any relative. Story 39. If I won millions in the lotto, I'd probably start by paying off any debt, if I had any. And then I'd go for something fun like a dream vacation, somewhere tropical with no worries for a bit. After that, I'd probably look into buying a house that's got a perfect view and all the space for hobbies or whatever else I want to do. It'd definitely be a mix of practicality and splurging. Story 40. Buy all my debt back and figure out how much taxes, insurance, ECT will be for the long run. I want the long-term freedom to always be able to walk away from every employer with a smile. I dream about the rush I would get when Jim tells me I have to pick up the slack from a coworker who quit, and I get to tell him if I am forced to do any extra due to his incompetence as a manager, he will be down 2 people. Story 41. Finally able to afford the dental care I need. Getting myself as healthy, attractive as possible. Pay off all debts. Then getting lawyer and financer to defend myself and my winnings from predators. Setting up a sort of rolling fund, thus guarantee that I will be given a net income of at least $400, 000 per year. Finally, stop struggling to survive. I do not want to struggle or survive. I want to live. Transition into total freedom. Constantly, quietly, harmlessly traveling around in luxury. Do meaningful things. Have fun. Give long-term good to others and myself. Finally be free. Finally always be a blessing and never a burden. Finally have a life. Then when I become too sick, weak, and/or old to live independently, then I will send messages of friendship, gratitude, and goodbye to all the honorable, compassionate, helpful, loyal, open-minded, future-focused friends, and then getting myself the fast, fearless, painless exit from this life world. Story 42. Setup. A trust to take care of my disabled daughter, who will need lifelong care. Take care of close family members and friends in need. Set up a charity to help foster kids who age out to get a decent start at adult life. Probably fix the brakes on my car. Story 43. My boss said he never been to a strip club, so I would buy him an at-home strippergram. At the end of the dance, the stripper would then proceed to give him my laptop, cell phone, and other equipment from the company with a note that says, "Jolt Steam quits." Story 44. First thing I bought was a dozen roses for each of my daughters, nieces, aunts, mother, wife, grandmothers, and other female relatives, and a bottle of Jack Daniels for all my male relatives with a card that said, "Thank you." Story 45 acres of land zoned commercial and residential in a county that has had solid population growth for the last 2 decades. Get utilities run to a lot. Just plop a trailer on it if you didn't want to build immediately and rent it out until you did. Story 46. A 2 to 3 week vacation to an island resort. There I would plan the next 6 to 12 months of my life. I would sell my house and buy a 4000 scaffed house for my family, and it would have a 3-car garage, preferably Lancaster, Lebanon, PA. I would then sell both the cars, buy 2 new ones. Probably a Lexus for my old lady and a mid-sized truck for myself. Put most of the rest of it in the money market, and get a part-time job that's low stress. My old lady would most likely continue using her degree in mental health therapy. I am an aviation mechanic by trade, but I would immediately not do that anymore. Story 47. I would want to open a restaurant that paid employees by percentage of store income that correlated to the hours they worked. Like if Sally worked an extremely busy Sunday night and got a percentage of what the restaurant made, and Frank called out that day expanding everyone else's percentage by what would have been his that night, then Sally would be more fairly compensated for a rough night. I think being paid by the hour is a bullshit system. People shouldn't get paid $15 an hour working at a grocery store that makes over $1 million every month, for example. IDK if this idea would work, but it's something I think about all the time. If I had the money, I'd also buy a trampoline. Story 48. The first thing I'd purchase or the first thing I'd spend money on, because those are two different things. The first thing I'd purchase would likely be food. I'd go get way too much crab at a place that actually knows how to make good crab. The first thing I'd spend money on would be immediately calling my car company and paying off my car, then calling my student loan company and paying that off, down the line until I'd eliminated any monthly payments based on debt. Once my monthly debts are taken care of, I can decide where to go from there based on how many millions I won. Story 49. The popular answers here are all going to be the technically correct, immediately hire a lawyer or pay off all the debt I have. Which, yeah, okay, that's what you should do. And my father-in-law is a trust and estates lawyer, so I'm doing it too. But to actually answer the question as it's meant, I'm torn between making an absolutely bitching travel van and touring the country or some photography gear. I have basically everything I could want, but a Sony 600 mm/f4 and an A12 would really just take the wildlife/bird photos to the next level. Or I quit my job and finally do that through hike I've always wanted to do. Story 52. Brand new comfy SUVs and car seats. Then I'd get going on designing our dream house, renovate my parents' home so my sister could move in, and get my parents the one-floor house they dream of. Put some money into education for my friends' kids. Get a housekeeper to take care of all the I hate doing and enjoy my life and travel as much as possible. Story 51. Don't have anything to pay off other than the car? Get rid of that one. Maybe take it for a full checkup and see if that's good for a bit more. Or get rid of that and buy a good SUV next, RAV4 or a CRV or something like that. Give a few mil to my boss and coworker so that they can figure out what to do with that. Buy a house more or less in this economy. Not going to retire. I love what I do. I worked hard to get to where I am, and pursuit of money is not what led me here. I would love to do my job until proper retirement age, then travel around. Weekends and vacations will be a bit more enjoyable. Make a few investments. High-interest FDs. All my previous stock purchases from years ago are doing really well. Transfer some to parents. That will help them travel around places a bit. Buy a good house close to work. Surprise some local business owners, workers with some hefty tip amounts. Enjoy life's other delicacies without having to worry about much, just like what I'm doing now. Life continues. Story 52. A home or land to start a build. Next is my debt. Then anyone else that's been there for me, their houses are paid in full. Their school debt is gone. Their tuition is done. Then whatever accounts needed for my kids and properties for them to start in, they would be rentals in the meantime. And then ID start a business so we all always have work. The rest sits in whatever accounts needed so it can grow. Lola. Story 53. Pay off student loan. Then take my partner out for a lovely meal. Not overly nice, but nice enough that suggests something good has happened. Immediately put the majority of it into a high-interest savings account. Watch the interest roll in every day. Story 54. This is boring but after a lawyer and a financial advisor, I'd set several safe portfolios up for me, my wife, and my daughter. I'd tell my parents, and although they're too proud to let me give them money, I'd offer them to visit me on holidays or whatever fun place I now live. I'd mostly live off of the interest from this point, but would probably still work. I'd structure my life to an extent where people don't think I'm rich, but I can basically afford to not work. If I decide to work on a startup, a VC won't look at me like some rich cunt that is begging for other people's money, instead of someone that wants to make a business work. Story 55. Obviously, I would pay off all my debts, buy a house and a new car, and set up a portfolio for stocks to grow my money. After doing all the responsible things, I'd probably buy a large swath of land to start a primitive living community with, as a sort of escape resort from modern issues. And then also assemble a small dev team to create a startup video game dev studio to make my dream game with. Story 56. Some kind of disguise so I can claim it anonymously. I have a super common name, so I'm not worried on that front. Although I'd have to look into whether my state allows you to claim it dressed as an old man, for example. Story 57. Not technically buying, but paying off. I'll pay off my house, my cars, my wife's student debt. That would leave me with about 418,000 left over. Probably a new furnace and AC system that will set me back around 25 to 30,000. Only myself and my wife would ever know about it though. Cannot really trust anyone, not friends, not family. Story 58, I'd buy a new minivan. Ours is about to bite the dust and we are terribly upside down on it, BC. We had to buy it during COVID times, ended up homeless, and my husband got hit by a car shortly afterward, and we got set back badly. We're never going to catch up on it and can only hope it gets totaled out at some point without us getting hurt, like hopefully a hurricane takes it out or someone hits our car parked really badly. BC, at least we have Gap and good ends. Oh, I mean a Ferrari or something. Story 59. I'd build a sanctuary where the forgotten and broken can finally heal, not just survive. A place where trauma survivors, addicts, and the homeless are treated like humans again. Full plant medicine journeys, deep therapy, and spaces to rediscover who they were before the world broke them. No forms, no waiting lists, no proof of suffering required. Just come as you are. I'd fund it all, document the transformations, and scream to the world that healing isn't a luxury, it's a right. Because when you've been to hell and made it back, you don't just walk away. You go back and pull others out. Story 60. Nothing. Quit my job, keep my mouth shut, easier said than done, get a good lawyer and financial advisor, and after a few months, invest. It takes months to get used to the idea of having millions. It can easily go to your head if you're impatient. Story 61. Order sushi for dinner tonight instead of cooking the salmon and broccoli I have planned. Pay off my house and all other debts. Get private health insurance. Quit my job. Spend a couple months doing absolutely nothing, just relaxing, recharging, and thinking. Maybe go off the grid and do that cross-country road trip I've always thought about but never had the time to do. Story 62. I will invest in crypto to incur profits over time and try to convert it by 50-fold. After that, I will donate 60% of the end back end to orphanages, old age homes, and similar relief centers or NGOs. For myself, I wish to keep enough to just support myself, and it wouldn't be much as I live alone and have no one particularly to rely upon. In fact, 60% I'm going to donate as much as possible. I don't value money anymore. Story 63. A consultation with a skilled business manager to help me set up trusts and such, so I can't go buck wild off the bat, and to protect me from people trying to steal or scam it from me. But like actual material things, pay for the plumbing in my old house to get overhauled, so I have fantastic water pressure instead of the super low pressure I get from my old pipes. Story 64. A Dr. Pepper, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to go sit in the library and get my credit report, calculate how much debt I have, put everything in my shopping cart on eBay, figure out how to buy the house next door and put it into a trust, turn a DBA into an LLC, and by that time that Dr. Pepper is gone. Story 65 Canadian here. Our lottery winnings aren't taxed, so we would get the entire mill. I'm in the blessed position of having no debt and owning my home, so I'd buy my kids a home and put down enough money that their mortgage was affordable. I'd take a small chunk and take my kids' grands and brother on a seriously awesome cultural vacation and pay them for their time if they didn't have paid vacation time left at their jobs. Story 66. I'd pay off the house and the rest of our debt, then buy a super expensive RV, have it delivered to the farthest point in eastern Canada, then fly out to pick it up and drive it across the country, hitting up every tourist trap, big ball of twine and statue of a goose I can find until I hit the West Coast. Story 67 depends how much I won, but buying out my mortgage. Probably a couple-week holiday, then shares in an all-world ETF across all ICEs in my household, top up our SIPPs and probably just keep doing that and maxing out the allowances every year. I would almost definitely buy a bigger TV and a proper home cinema sound system, probably some Sonos or Marshall speakers for my home garage gym. Story 68, peace of mind. As in, settle all my debts and the debts of my family and closest friends. Houses, cars, credit cards, pay the rest of the rent and car insurance terms. Then good health insurance. After that, my dream car. From then on, I have no idea, but everything except enough to survive for the next month will be put into savings while I work up a plan. Story 69. Assuming a minimum of 2 million, as you said, millions. I would first hire a lawyer and financial advisor to set myself up for the rest of my life. I'd pay off all current debts, house, school loan, minimal credit card balance. I'd give my car a tune-up and new paint job. After that, there'd be a pretty solid plan for passive residual income opportunities. Story 70. Probably not so much a purchase as an investment, and that would be setting up a trust fund to take care of my 2 disabled siblings. After that, property in Europe because I'm leaving and won't be back. Story 71 first, I'd take $68K and pay off my house. Then a new 3/4 ton truck for me, something for my wife, and a new Sprinter for my dad and customize it to haul hunting dogs. then a bigger camper, pay off my sister's house and get her a new car. Then, more motorcycles. Story 72, probably the rest of my mortgage. Then, depending on the number of millions, up to 5, put it into SP 500 index and dividend-yielding stocks and tax-free accounts for my kids' educations. Beyond 5, there are a couple classic cars I would really like to own. Property outside the U.S. in a warm climate, destination determined by residency and ownership requirements. After that, I need to start picking up hobbies. Drums, language classes to accompany new property. Story 73, I'd pay off my and my sister's debts and go house shopping for us. Something she plus her family can live in, and I can have a lil art studio out back by the pool, a lil loft, greenhouse, rescue animal sanctuary, and live out my days taking care of my family, whatever other ways I can. Story 74, probably a bigger car. The current one is quite a squeeze for the kids, nothing silly. I wouldn't tell anyone. Quit work. Start a business where I have an interest and probably restore future classic cars. Wouldn't give a if it was profitable, although it'd appear successful. I think living like a millionaire is a mistake and paints a target for family beggars and bitterness. I'd live comfortably, but not in a way that would be deemed extravagant. Story 75. Pay off everything in debt, house, car, or WE, and then fund life and medical insurance along with a retirement plan. With the rest, invest as much as possible and live comfortably. Not in luxury, of course. $1 million is not that much in today's economy. Story 76. A really nice fancy dinner for myself. Then pay off all debts. At the moment, just a mortgage. Then lawyer up and find a financial advisor. I would continue working as if nothing happened for now and not tell a soul that I won aside from my lawyer and financial advisor. Create a savings plan, investment plan, and only take out how much I really need per year to continue existing on my current lifestyle with minimal improvements to it. Eventually devise a plan to quit my job, lying and saying that I found a position elsewhere. Then take a month-long vacation. I also want to buy myself a nice SUV, since I'm tired of driving a small car. Just something practical that doesn't cost more than $40K outright. I'm not interested in luxury vehicles or sports cars or anything like that, and I'll never flaunt the wealth. Lastly, also start studying and researching options on starting my own business. Story 77. A ticket to another country that isn't as transphobic as the USA. You probably wouldn't see me again. I'd call my relatives to arrange to have my cats sent to me. Anything else can be replaced. My relatives would be well compensated for their help. In many places, you can basically buy citizenship. Story 78. Buy a car. Get my kids out of debt and buy them houses on either side of me. Buy a home on the beach in La Jolla. Buy a luxury condo that's within walking distance of everything. Restaurants, movie theater, mall, seas. Hire a gardener to have a miniature Butchert Gardens at home. Also walking distance of a nice casino. I would probably need musk money. Go to the dentist. Story 79. My wife time. She can now do whatever she wants to do, but at her discretion. You don't have to work anymore. She's not the type that would do nothing. She needs purpose, but it would be purely for that, not because she needs money anymore. Story 81st, I'm getting a lawyer and a financial advisor. Then I'm flying over to France and putting in my order for a catamaran. I'll hang out in the Med on a motor yacht while waiting for my cat to be built and outfitted. Story 81, pay off my mom's house. She's done so much for me over the years and is just an incredible person. She just deserves it. Pay off my sister's house and all her debit. She's been battling cancer since 2018 and still manages a full-time job. Then I'd pay off the debit my wife and have. Story 82. Give money to a church, school, and an orphanage. Pay off all my debts. Tell no one and continue to work my regular job. Anonymously pay off the debts of hardworking families. I would never tell anyone I had the money. Just bless those who need it more than I would. Story 83. I would set like 50% or 75% aside for taxes, rent, and food expenses. I'd be tempted to do little tiny side quests, like put $1,000 in Coinbase to farm $50 per year of USDC yields. I'd set aside enough money to max out my Roth IRA for the rest of my life, which is about $250,000. I'd spend about $100K to pay off my mom's mortgage. I'd pay off all my debt, which is about $50K. I'd not get a mortgage and instead buy a house under my means in cash so that the property tax would never bother me. Maybe as a side quest, I open a sports bar or a weed dispensary. Story 84. I would go to the bank and get someone to walk me through the process of paying off all of my immediate family's debt. Then I would give the receipts to my husband as a surprise. I would send him on some kind of spa trip. My dude works so hard. Then I would purchase all of my parents' debt and also my parents' house and let them keep living there while fixing up the property to make it safe for them to transition into senior living. I'd build a cozy addition with a big shareable art studio, but with plenty of privacy and have it ready for us to move into so we can live with them and take care of them when the need arises. I'd make sure to include plenty of guest rooms. I would make some self-sufficient upgrades as far as clean water, solar, and set up a garden and orchard on their property. I'd fix up their barn and get some horses again. If I still had plenty of selfish, just for you money, I'd finish my master's and go on to get my doctorate. I'd use the art studio space I had created and offer art therapy and private art lessons to kids in the community. I'd host hoity-toity art retreats where people would live off the land with us there and spend time in nature and make art. I'd charge a lot for these retreats and use that money to fund the art therapy and art lessons for underprivileged kids in my area. I would want to keep working as an art teacher or therapist so my husband wouldn't have to work a 9-5 and could instead work the land and just be a total introvert to his heart's content. Story 85, a truck or a van with a toilet or something for traveling with my family. Next is adopt 2 cats and buy their pet insurances, shots, and all the works. Next is probably property or land in a developing location that has good security. Buy service from a lawyer and or an accountant, open some investment and savings accounts. Story 86. Finish paying off my parents' house so they never have to worry about house payments again. Then, a second vehicle for fun. I'd keep my current vehicle but have the additional one for fun because I do like cars and always thought it would be fun to own a fancy one that I don't drive as much. Story 87. I think I would stop by Costco and pick up a rack of their cooked ribs and a pack of torta bread. Might grab a new pair of leggings while I was there. Would take my husband out to one of the local lake trails. We could sit on a bench, look at the Great Lake view, talk about best investment plans, and eat an amazing and inexpensive meal. What would change in our lives? Nothing but our investment portfolio. Story 88. Dividend-paying stuff. To not use it all on stupid. Just live out normal, happy, and jobless for the rest of my life, possibly even my future children. No Ferraris, no huge houses, no boats, sell current house, get a house same size, but bigger courtyard. Start gardening, having a normal, happy life. Enough to maintain stuff that breaks, enough to pay bills, always have food, enough to maintain a car, possibly buy something brand new that can just get me to grocery stores. When this one breaks, not 300-400K car, but something that's good and lasting, while having a decent consumption, so I save gas. Story 89. I didn't win $1 million, but got $117,000 from selling a family home. I wasn't rich by all means before I got that money. The first thing I did was pay my credit card debt, put some in a savings account, and put the rest in a CD until I'm ready to buy a house or condo. It's nice having it in the bank knowing I can buy what I want, but knowing I don't need the expensive car, shoe, or purse. That sense of security is great. Story 91st. Get a lawyer and / or financial advisor to find out how to properly do everything. And then get out of the USA and to a safe country ASAP. If my husband, any of our children or grandchildren want to go, they are welcome to come. I'm more of a simple person and a homebody, not one that likes to travel. And I'm not into jewelry or materialistic items. I would find a nice but small, cozy home and bank the rest, being able to live out my remaining years, comfortable and safe without worry. Story 91. I'd immediately set up some high-yielding interest accounts and start paying off my friends and family's student loan debts with the yearly interest. Buy myself a modest home and all the tools I've ever wanted. But I want to make sure my friends and family are set. Tear my mom's house down and let her rebuild a house that isn't a money pit on her property. Pay my dad's house off. Give my brother and sisters a fund that they could have their bills paid with. Keep about $3 million in a high-yielding account for myself and live off the interest. Set up my will so when the day comes that I pass, my nieces and nephews are taken care of, but I don't want them seeing any of the money until they are in their 30s at minimum. So let it build again in a high-yielding account until they hit that age. I've also always fantasized about taking my friends on a trip around the world. All expenses paid. Also spoil the hell out of my dog. I just want a happy, wholesome life. Story 92. Isolate myself and get a villa on the Virgin Islands and chill for a week with only the sound of the serene beach water waves in my backyard and a bottle of amazing red wine. That way I can be in peace mode as I figure out what to do with all the money. I'd probably bring my husband along too. Story 93. I would pay my car off and pay my student loans off so while I'm in school I didn't have to worry about those. And I would maybe buy my dream car or keep my current one and maybe buy my dream truck. But outside of that, I wouldn't do anything until after I graduated school. I'd actually get a financial guy after school before I bought anything further. I think the really nice thing would be not to have to worry about gas. Story 94. Taking out tons of low-interest real estate loans from lenders, desperate for multi-million-dollar portfolio and multifamily loans. Proceed to buy up tons of apartments complexes in well-researched areas and watch my equity grow while collecting return on investment over time without spending a dollar of my own money. Story 95, same answer every time this is posted. A Subway sandwich. I grew up poor and hungry. My first job was doing lawnscaping, and they paid in cash Friday morning for the week's work. My brother made jokes about me being a high roller now and said lunch was on me. Buying lunch for my brother and I was the first thing I ever did with money from a real job. Having the money and being able to spend it on something I would have killed for years before was sublime. All new jobs, first paychecks, windfalls, etc., have been celebrated the same way since. Story 96, I designed some products, patent, sell, and then with that cash start up some companies. One being a producer of HVAC products, geothermal heat pumps, solar thermal heat pumps, ultra-efficient mini-split systems, insultative products, to maximize efficiency of HVAC systems, 3 different styles of products. Cheap, extremely basic design using basic materials. These systems would be capable of providing cool air and efficient housing, even without a power grid, to provide better living standards for people in less developed nations working in agriculture. Can then attempt to progress the relationship with these people and seek agricultural partnerships, development of infrastructure, etc. Cheap but clean materials for the people that need the product for basic functionality at an affordable cost. Not the best longevity, but at least 5 years of quality performance. High-end, made with clean top-of-the-line materials, built to last products that are the gold standard in the industry.